The Toronto fall real estate market is off to a sluggish start. I'm going to be unboxing the latest stats with you and unravel the truth about why it is that the Toronto fall market in 2024 is off to such a slow start. Because everyone was hoping that the 3 rate cuts we've gotten so far will, spur more demand, prices go up, sales go up. But that's not true. And because that's mainly what the sellers were hoping for. But as I was saying in the summertime of this year, that I was actually getting way more calls for people who wanted to sell because rate cuts started happening than people who wanted to buy. And the sellers thought that because rate cuts happened right away, it meant that the market would boom, bounce back right away. Well, clearly that is not true from this data I'm about to share with you. It's a sluggish start to the fall, but there is hope, and I'm going to show you in this video what that hope is. So it's very important that if you're planning to make a move in the real estate market right now, you need to go and understand the inventory in the specific areas you're looking to buy and sell in. And this is why it's even more important that you get some professional help. And when you marry that data with kind of what the sentiment is, that's how you're gonna be able to optimize for your next move. And you wanna chat about that unique situation for yourself, you could do so by booking a call with me using the link that's on the screen. It's right here. It's www.chatwithzen.com. The link's also in the description below. Simply click on the date and a time that works best for you. And then when you see the prompt, fill in your name, email, mobile phone number, and the question you have for me, and then we'll chat then. Good day, everybody, and welcome to Prime Properties TO. If you're new here, my name is Zen, and I own and I run a RE/MAX in the Greater Toronto area, where we help a lot of clients buy, sell, and invest, in the real estate market. Now, if you're enjoying the content I'm putting out there, do me a favor and like and subscribe so I can continue putting more information out there for you guys, so you understand what on earth is exactly happening in the real estate market right now. So the data for the first month of fall 2024 is out, and let me show you exactly why Toronto feels so sluggish right now. But first, let me show you how our real estate board and some other media outlets may have spun this bad data into positive data, right? So when you look at this change month over month, even though I use it all the time, I don't use it in September because it always looks rosy. But almost every single year, when you go from August to September, things bump up on average price. It's always been like that, right? And that's why I said earlier, like in August, I think there was a very high probability that prices may have bottomed in August and may continue chopping sideways, because I knew this big bump in average price is going to come inevitably. It happens every single year except for like 1 year. So here's the data to back it up so you can have a look. This year, prices were up 3% from August, which is a large movement, by the way, but that's just a lot of statistic kind of like rearrangement. But it's lower than our historic average of like 3.79%. So despite all this rosy spin, there is problems in the market right now and why things feel sluggish. So the first chart I'll draw your attention to is this months of inventory chart, which is just essentially a ratio of sales to the number of properties available to buy right now. And the higher the number, the slower the market. And you can see right now, it's absolutely ridiculously high. We're at 5 right now, which is the highest we've seen on average in the entire market, dating back to 1996. Yeah. It means that properties aren't being absorbed as fast as they are coming out. You see, that's the ratio. Now, when you look at the absorption rate, which is just a different way to measure it, you can see that we're at like 26%, which is super, super low, which means that 1 in 4 new listings in September are actually being bought. The other 3 are just sitting around. And that number is the second lowest ever in each month. Yeah, it's not great. And the only reason why it doesn't feel that slow is because we've been, trending below, call it 50% absorption rate for the last 18 months. So it's all relative. Usually we're at like 60% on historic norms. Now, here's some additional context on the sluggishness. This chart here is from our Toronto Real Estate Board that talks about year-over-year stats. And I want to draw your attention to the price change from last year. It's actually down 1%, which, in a year-over-year, it's not that much, but it's not like almost nothing either, right? But what I want you to see is that the sales are only up 8.5% from last year, and it was really, really bad last year after 3 rate cuts, right? And last year's rates were like the high 5s, maybe 6s. So there is a lag to this rate cut and how it impacts the market. And finally, on a year-over-year comparison in this chart, look how long it takes to sell a property right now. Each property is on the market for 43 days before it's sold. 43. That's very long compared to the heydays of stuff gets sold in multiple offers in one day or even less because of a bully offer, right? Now, I want you to remember that number 43 because it's going to come back later in this video. And now I'm going to zoom out a little bit more just to show you essentially how prices have fared. And you can see that we're kind of flat since 2021 before the big, Q1 2022 spike, right? So we're just like fluctuating seasonally between like 1.15 mil and 1.1 mil on average, right? So it's not like things are moving. It's still shopping sideways. So you take out the monthly volatility, like things are just moving sideways, right? Now let's dive even deeper into the stats and look past all this surface level BS because this is where the true nuggets of information are. Right here is the active listings, the number of properties for sale. It officially crossed 25,000, which I talked about earlier in September that will likely hit. And I had this warning in the summer, if we hit there, it means that we may have some trouble. It means that the buyers have a ton more options, and it's exactly why it's taking longer to sell a property. There should, keyword is should, be downward pressure on pricing. But here is where the real estate bears may be a little bit sad. Prices are generally sticky on their way down because people don't want to lose money right away and crystallize by selling it. But we're running up into some demand stimulus with the mortgage rule changes as of late. And potentially this jumbo 50 bip rate cut this month at the end of October. But remember, there is a lag in the sentiment to the data and the rate cut. It's not instant, just like that, what most people want. And you can see in this chart here that the showing data, which leads sales. And if you look here, you can see that since September, it has more showings than last year, every single week by 21% on average. But sales were only up 8.5% from last year. And remember that days on market of being 43? There is a lag in the sales because it's taking on average 43 days to sell the property because there are so many options right now for buyers. So sales number could be increasing by this data set next month if the demand stays there for the showings. Now here's where things get even more interesting. This is the new listings for September, and you can see it's very high. It's not like historically high, but still very high nonetheless. But what I suspected anecdotally from all the calls I got in like July and August about people's situations is that I thought we would have a lot of pent-up sellers and a lot more of them than buyers would come to the market in September. And a lot of people generally relist their properties at the start of September as well. And you can see over here that it was definitely true because the new listings were very high. What was very interesting for me was that towards the tail end, when I was looking at the data, it felt that the listings kind of dropped off. And when I looked in the data, you can see here that they really did drop off. This means that a lot of sellers were waiting for that fall market, that third rate cut in September to list and hope that there's a chance that buyers are all back. So if this trend of less listings continue, we may revert back to the norm of the amount of listings we have. So the question becomes this. If we get this jumbo rate cut at the end of October, will it spur enough buyers back in the market to justify all these properties that we have available for sale right now? That is a question that everyone wants answered. Yeah, everybody does. Now, right now, there's three big time factors are going to change how the market's going to, move in a certain direction in the coming months and the strength of that market. Number one being the inventory, how much stuff is available to buy right now, and it's very high right now. Number two, the rates. They're coming down right now. Mortgage rates are coming down. And three, this looming recession that's kind of like just throw it in the air. It may come, it may not come. We don't know. And how quickly each of those factors moves is going to change the market in a certain direction, whether it be bullish or bearish. And this is kind of my current base case right now with the data I have for the rest of 2024. It's going to continue to be sluggish. The sentiment is still weak despite we have rate cuts because the inventory remains very, very high. Buyers have a lot of options. However, things could shift if we get a jumbo rate cut at the end of this month, I think in the 23rd of October, which may change the sentiment, but not instantly. And I think it's going to have a larger impact on the sentiment in the new year when everyone delists the properties when they fail to sell in the sluggish rest of 2024. So I think a lot may or may not happen at the dinner on the holiday tables, right? And before I get into the like historic numbers with these so you can see, how sluggish we really are, I want to kind of share an analogy I've been kind of telling clients as of late when, everyone's asking me like, how's the market going, right? Because I get asked that a ton. And hopefully it helps you kind of understand the market a little bit more outside of just the data alone. So if you imagine kind of like the Greater Toronto Area real estate market being a bar, where the buyers are the boys and the sellers are the girls. It's very rare that you'll find in Toronto a bar that has more girls than guys. And currently in the Greater Toronto Area real estate market, that bar right now is us, right? There are definitely more girls than there are guys. Weird, right? So the guys there are actually all afraid to make a move on a girl unless this gal is a 10 out of 10. And when that 10 out of 10 walks into the bar, all the guys turn their heads just like that. And everybody is looking at her and she gets all the unprecedented amount of attention because while the guys are gun shy for everything else, that all the girls are in the bar, they are not when a 10 out of 10 or maybe like a 9 out of 10 walks into the room. Meaning all the 8 out of 10s and below are being ignored and this will continue to happen. This means that if your property is a 10 out of 10 or maybe like a 9 out of 10 that lists in this fall market, especially if you underlist, it's still attracting a lot of attention from these boys/buyers. And that's why there are stories of properties with 10 plus offers on them in September, but that's not all the properties out there. That's exactly why the showings are up. Because in a bar where there are more girls than guys, for once, the guys are way more selective and they just aren't approaching every single girl like they'll be forever alone, right? So unfortunately, for the 8 out of 10s and below, the market has shifted. And if you want to sell, you better adjust your price to get some attention, right? So I hope that analogy helps you understand the market a little bit more because that's kind of really what's going on. And look, every seller thinks their home is a 10 out of 10. Me too. I love my home. It's a 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10. But trust me, when you hit the market, you'll be hit with the truth real fast when you get no showings, unless you get some professional help on how to actually price your property and look at the data in the area so you actually do sell. And adding to like my bar analogy, if you are a gal in the bar of this Toronto real estate market that is a condo seller, this is how bad the months of inventory is. 7. It's really high. Like we've only ever been this high after like the '08 crisis in US. And this is especially true if you're selling a sub 500 square foot condo. You automatically get bumped down 2 points on a scale out of 10. It's really bad because there's so many of them out there right now. So I hope that helps you understand the market right now. So let's shift to the historical stats so you understand how badly we are in terms of sluggishness. First, we got the active listings, and you can see, like I told you from previous data, that it's so high. It's really high. And when looking historically, it's only ever been this high, leading up to the '08 global financial crisis. So, context. Next, we look at the sales. Basically, very low, like I said, but we're like marginally better than last year with 3 rate cuts. But we still have a lot of listings that we kind of have to clear out and choose from. And that's why things are slow, right? Which is exactly why I'll say sluggish. And as for new listings, this is reflected kind of like in my anecdotal story I was saying in earlier this summer with all the pent up sellers that it's very high because everyone decided to wait until fall to list just like 2022 as well, right? So the sellers last year didn't really want to sell when rates were high in the high 5s and like 6s, but things have turned when they thought that maybe demand would like instantly come back when we would get our 3rd rate cut. But JK, nope. Which leads our months of inventory to being the way it is right now, the highest it's ever been in September, right? Ultimately meaning that we have a very, 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 very sluggish market and a very, very sluggish start to the fall market. And just to reinforce how bad it is, when I look at the absorption rate, which is essentially just sales to new listing ratio for all the nerds out there, it's very low. It's the lowest that we've ever had, like I said earlier, right? That's not great. And there you have it. That is a full deep dive onto the truth of why the 2024 fall real estate market is off to such a sluggish start, right? And while there's like a glimmer of hope in the future of rates coming down and these new mortgage rule changes, understand that we have so many listings to go through right now that I do not think prices will be going up anytime soon. But It also doesn't mean that they're going to be going down anytime soon either. It can essentially chop sideways for a long time, right? And hence why I said prices likely bottomed, in August, but there is demand out there, and demand should, in theory, increase with these rate cuts and these mortgage rule changes. It's just that the demand that is looking for the 10 out of 10s and the 9 out of 10s is there. But if you're not there and you're not at that caliber of property, you need to adjust your pricing. Hopefully this gives you an idea of what's going on in the real estate market. And if you do want to talk about your particular plans for the upcoming few months and what you plan to do and how to optimize for buying, selling, and investing, you can do so by booking a call with me using a link that's on the screen right here. It's www.chatwithzen.com, or the link is also in the description below. Until next time, your move, your future. See ya! Now that you're done watching this one, how about this one or this one? You know what? Just watch them both.